हरिः ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं नमामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पदानः शृण्वन् नोतिभिस्सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। Sabaiku namaskar. Welcome everyone and thanks to the Samaj for inviting me to give this discourse on today, very auspicious day, Saturday and Ekadasi, on Ramayana and the strategic principles from it that can be applied in modern day life. And thank you for all the Rama Bhaktas for coming to the discourse. I'm going to start by singing a Kirtana for Ganesha because he's a remover of all the obstacles. The Kirtana is Sri Maha Ganapatira Vaduma in Misra Chandadalam Gaula Raga. Shri Maha Ganapatira Vaduma, 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 Siddhi Vinayaka Matanga Mukha Ganapatira Vaduma, Siddhi Vinayaka Matanga Mukha Ganapatira Vaduma, Siddhi Vinayaka Matanga Mukha Ganapati Magamadhanada Baba Madhimita Baba Nida Gita Pani Sari Mukundari Baba Nida Gita Rigamada Dimitari Nizari Tabukundari Pani Bazadi Mitari Rigamadi Chaudari Tazani Baba Dikina Kamshi Malagana Padira Vakuma Siddhivina Yamago Malanka Bhugashi Magya Ganapati So I chose this particular song because, being here in Mumbai, the song has the words Siddhi Vinayak in it. And also this particular Ganapati, Mumbai being the financial capital of India and possibly soon to be the financial capital of the world, this particular song is special because in the Charan we have Subarna Karshana, meaning this Ganapati is one, anything he touches it turns into gold. So now, having prayed to Ganapati, I will continue on to discussing the Ramayana. And I will be covering stories from all the 7 Kandas. So let's begin with the Balakanda. In the Balakanda, you have, it talks about, it introduces the Ramayana and then it covers a lot of Ramas and the Raghuvamsa ancestry. So one of Rama's ancestors was King Sagara, and he had 60,000 sons. One of whom was Asamanja, and his son was Anshuman. Anshuman's son is Dilipa. Dilipa's son is Bhagiratha. Sagara, Anshuman and Dilipa, they all did severe tapas with the goal of bringing the Ganga river from Swargaloka to Bhuloka. Unfortunately, they were not successful. So Bhagiratha, in order to fulfill the goals, the unfulfilled goals of his ancestors, he did severe tapas. He entrusted the kingdom to the ministers and he did severe tapas for thousands and thousands of years. And then Brahma showed up and asked him, "What boon do you want?" To which Bhagiratha answered, "I want Ganga to be brought to earth." But Brahma said, that's a great wish, but practically there are some challenges because Ganga in Swargaloka flows at a very fast speed. So, if there are any ex-engineers or physicists or professors, you'll know, that will create a lot of problems when it impacts the earth. So Bhagiratha came up with an idea. He said, let's have the Ganga river water flow through Shiva's head, so it will slow down the speed of the flow. But Ganga, she is a very prideful person. She is the daughter of a king, King Himavanta. So her plan was to simply blow past Shiva and take the water all the way to Pataloka. But unfortunately, Shiva is very smart. He trapped the Ganga water in his hair. But this presented a challenge to Bhagiratha because he wants to bring the water to Bhuloka. So he did 1 year of severe tapas standing on his single big toe to Shiva, and ultimately Shiva released the water. And this Ganga river, it landed in a place known as the Bindu Sarovar, and that's in present-day Gujarat. And it split into 7 different rivers. 3 that went in the westward direction, 3 that went in the east direction, and 1 that went south, following Bhagiratha's chariot. And it followed all the way to Pataloka, where it washed away the ashes of the 60,000 sons of Sagara. Now, why are the ashes of 60,000 sons of Sagara in Pataloka? That's because when Sagara did Ashwamedha Yajna, the 60,000 sons of Sagara, they were trying to capture the horse, which is typical of the Ashwamedha Yajna. But sage Kapila, who was the incarnation of Vishnu, Mahavishnu, he burned the sons, through his gaze. So that's why they were in Pataloka. So they also achieved salvation because their ashes were washed by the Ganga river. So what strategy we can take from this particular story is the importance of perseverance when working towards challenging goals. Because if you think about it, back then also people used to live not like now. Because now everybody eats vada pav, pav bhaji, they eat dokla, and samosa. Now that's they get build up issues like cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. But back then that wasn't much of a challenge. So what happens is back then, people lived for much longer. Their lifespan was longer, and because of that, these tapas took tens and thousands of years. But even then, 4 generations of the Raghuvamsa was not able to achieve the goal. But in spite of that, Bhagirath kept his focus and persevered, and he hit roadblocks along the way because he thought he had achieved the goal, but then Shiva trapped the Ganga water. So in spite of that, he continued to push forward and achieve the goal. So how this can be applied in modern day scenario is for younger children, they should be taught the importance of focusing and persevering, whether they want to become an engineer, go to IIT, or study and become an IAS officer. These are important skills to develop, and this has been taught by Valmiki long time, many generations before. So now I'll go to the next story in the Balakanda. Rama, Lakshmana, they took their education from their guru Vishwamitra. And after completing the education, Vishwamitra took them to the city of Mithila, which is in present day Bihar. And that's where King Janaka was ruling. When they visited there, Vishwamitra, being a Brahma Rishi, he was received with full respect by King Janaka. And Janaka mentioned that he has Shiva's bow with him. And anybody who ties Shiva's bow, who is able to string Shiva's bow, he will give Sita, his very beautiful daughter, he will give Sita and his hand in marriage to them. So Vishwamitra, and when Janaka mentions this, he gives the background on Shiva's bow. So this bow is very powerful because Shiva used it during the Daksha Prajapati Yajna, when he was attacking all the Devatas and Daksha Prajapati. And it was later entrusted to one of the ancestors of King Janaka, King Devarata. And that has been kept through the family generations for their safekeeping. And this bow, many kings, Janaka warns Vishwamitra, many kings, they have tried to lift this bow. They have tried to string it, but they have been unsuccessful, including the very powerful Ravana of Lanka. But Vishwamitra, he is very confident, because if you want to be successful in life, you always want to learn from the best. So, learning from Vishwamitra is like learning at Wharton or IIT Delhi or IIT Bombay. It's one of the top universities. It's basically the best education you can get. And because of that, Vishwamitra says to Janaka, Janakasya chashatva Vishwamitro mahamnihi dhanurdasya ramaya iti hovacha parthivam. Which means that, with some context, what it means is, the Sanskrit, what it means is, I understand all of what you have said, but I am very confident in the ability of Rama, so please bring out the bow. Now let me give you an idea of how heavy this bow is. Because when you read about it on the paper, it doesn't sound very heavy. Because people back then, they were very strong because of their health. This bow had to be wheeled out on a heavy-duty cart with 8 wheels. And not just that, it had to be pulled by 5,000 people. 5,000 people had to pull the 8-wheel cart to bring the bow out to the arena. And once it was brought out, Rama stands before the box which is housing the bow, and he does namaskar. He grabs the bow with one hand and lifts it, and everybody is stunned, including the Devatas who are watching from the sky. And he tries to string the bow, but in the process he breaks it in half in the middle. And that releases a huge thunderclap noise, and a lot of people that faint and become unconscious. When King Janaka comes back to his senses, he is very happy because he has been waiting for years for somebody to swing the bow, swing or break the bow. And many of the top kings, they couldn't even lift it, but Rama was able to. And what this shows is Rama is a very capable person. And he understood that Rama is a very special person, and he will be the perfect candidate to marry Sita. So he asks for Vishwamitra's provisional approval. Vishwamitra says okay, so he sends the ministers to Dasharatha to get final approval, and then the marriage happens. And at the same time, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, they also get married, and everybody goes back to Ayodhya and they spend their time happily. So now let me move on to the Ayodhya Kanda. In the Ayodhya Kanda, after Dasharatha, after he passes away and Bharata does the last rites, the ministers, they entrust Bharata with the ruling power of the kingdom as a kind of a trustee relationship. So at the time, Rama still hasn't gone to Dandakaranya forest yet. He is around the banks of the Ganga river, and Bharata needs some advice. So he gets together with the top ministers and makes a plan to pave a highway from Ayodhya to Ganga. And remember, he is on a time pressure. This project needs to be completed relatively quickly. But the good thing about Bharata is he is a planner and a developer. So even towards the end of the Ramayana, even after Rama becomes king, Bharata was the one who became the prince regent. So he was responsible for managing all the infrastructure development works for Ayodhya and the greater territories. In fact, he did a lot of westward development in what is present-day Pakistan. He developed a lot of cities there, including one which goes by the name of Takshashila. So Bharata, he gets together with his ministers and he says, we need to quickly develop a road so we can reach Rama in an efficient manner. And he's good at allocating resources, identifying the right people for the projects, and quickly builds a road, doing all the excavation work, and roads, canals, viaducts, small bridges, and reaches Rama. So what we can understand from this is, even back then, ancestors understood the importance of development for the populace. So they understood the importance of water for the sustenance of human life, and they also understood the importance of development. And we can see that today. In fact, in Mumbai recently, earlier this year, you had the link bridge between Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, which is India's longest sea bridge, and that has really improved the traffic situation. Mumbai still has a lot of traffic, but it has improved the traffic situation. And like that, there are many other projects. So that shows that our ancestors understood, spiritual is also important, but administration and infrastructure development is critical as well. Now I'm going to move on to the Aranya Kanda. In the Aranya Kanda, this is very much a turning point in the Ramayana, because this is the time when Rama comes into contact with a lot of asuras and he starts fighting battles. So the first asura he fights goes by the name of Virada, and when Virada is on his deathbed, because Rama is undefeatable on any day, Ekadasi is especially powerful, but on any day he is invincible. So when Virada is on his deathbed, he tells him, Rama, that I am actually a celestial being, and by killing me, you relieve me of the curse put on me by Kubera. And he instructs Rama to please go further south to a few yojanas to the ashrama of Sharabhaga, Rishi Sharabhaga. Rama does Virada's last rites, and he goes to the ashrama of Sharabhaga, where he does namaskar. But before he goes to Sharabhaga's ashram, as he's approaching, he notices Indra and his chariot outside the ashram. And Indra also observes Rama coming, so he quickly flies away with him and his entourage. So Rama enters ashram, does namaskar for Sharabanga, and he asks Sharabanga, why was Indra at your ashram? To which Sharabanga says, Indra was here as a messenger of Brahma. Because of my tapas, Brahma is inviting me to transcend my body and go to Satyaloka. And I want to mention, this is outside of the story, I want to mention something important here. The reason why Indra quickly ran away when Rama comes, and this is in the Vishnu Purana, it mentions that when Vishnu decided to take the avatar of Rama, he specifically told all the Devatas to not personally interact with Rama. Don't interact with him on a personal level. Keep it at a professional level. Because if you interact personally with Rama, there is the chance that Rama will recognize that he is an avatar of Vishnu. Because throughout the Ramayana, he never recognizes that. And if he recognizes that, there is one problem. He will have, because of Ravana's boon, he won't be able to kill Ravana because he will not be a man anymore. He will be Bhagavan. So because of that's why Indra quickly left. And then Sharabanga told Rama, the reason why I told Indra that he needs to wait is I wanted to have darshana of Rama in my mortal body because you cannot get that. So I wanted to have that darshanam and then I will come to Satyaloka. So Sharabanga, he goes to Satyaloka, and then after that the local rishis and sages, they approach Rama and they tell him, you are one of the bravest warriors of the Raghuvamsa and we need your help eradicating the Asuras in the Dandakarika forest. And Rama, who never backs down from any challenge, he says, yes, I will take the oath to help support you. And this particular sarga in the Ramayana is the real turning point. Because it puts Rama, it increases the probability that he is going to come in contact with Ravana. And killing Ravana is the ultimate goal of Rama's birth. And these rishis, they tell him to go further south to Rishi Sutikshana's ashram. The reason why that is important is the further south Rama goes, the closer he gets to Lanka. That's why all the rishis, all the devatas, they strategically position in such a way that they keep telling and instructing Rama to keep going south. So the strategy that can be learned from this is when you want somebody to do something good for you, because you should always use the strategies for good purpose. We learned that from Mahabharata. So when you want somebody to do something good for you, you need to strategically position them for success. And this is applicable to many of the youngsters because you want to put them in good extracurricular activities like singing, violin, mridangam, chess, and some sports, because they will be with like-minded peers in a competitive environment, and that will position them for success. So that has been showed by the Devatas. A lot of people, they have the misconception that only Mahabharata is where you learn the strategy. But in fact, in Ramayana, there's a lot of strategic messages. So now I will go to the Kishkinda Kanda. This is the Kanda where you see Rama's interaction with the Vanara kingdom. After Rama kills Vali and Sugriva does the last rites, Hanuman suggests to Rama that all of them go to the capital of Kishkinda so that Rama can be present for Sugriva's coronation. But Rama disagrees because he informs Hanuman and Sugriva that he had an oath to his father to do the 14-year exile. And during his exile, he cannot enter a village or city for the purposes of celebration. So that is why he says he will stay with Lakshmana in the Rishyamukha mountains. And he tells Hanuman, please, you go forward with all the Vanaras and celebrate it with pomp and fervor. And he also instructs Sugriva to appoint Angada as the Yuvaraja or the crown prince in order to ensure the continuity of the Vanara kingdom. And one more thing he mentions, this is very important, he he smartly mentions to Sugriva, this is the Shravana month, the start of the rainy season. And this is to give you geographical context. The Kishkinda kingdom is located around the region of Hampi in present-day Karnataka. So this is around the time where the rainy season starts. And so it's a good auspicious time for the Pattabhishekam. But after the rainy season is done and the Kartika Masam starts, you need to, as agreed, you need to help me defeat Ravana, because I helped you kill Vali and gain back the kingdom. Sugriva says okay, and they go and they celebrate the coronation. So the strategy that we can learn from this is the importance of keeping your word and also holding others to their word. So you can see Rama is keeping his word to his father by not celebrating with the Vanaras, but he is also holding Sugriva to his word. He's reminding him, after the rainy season is over, you need to help. After the rainy season is over, Sugriva, he forgets about the promise, but then Rama reminds him, and ultimately Sugriva does help Rama, and ends up being a critical aspect of the battle in Lanka. So now I'm going to move on to the Sundarakanda. This is the Kanda that is one of the most beautiful in the entire Sanatana Dharma and in the Ramayana because of its poetic excellence and also the vivid descriptions of Lanka and the interaction between Hanuman and Sita. So this particular Kanda, it begins with Hanuman taking the 100 yojana leap over the ocean between Bharata Khanda and Lanka. And that's why, because of Bharata and his development, that's why this land and region is called Bharata Khanda. So Hanuman takes the leap and he encounters some asuras along the way. And then once he lands, you see, Hanuman is very smart because his guru is even better than Vishwamitra. Surya, he learned from Surya walking backwards. And because of that, he has learned a lot of strategy. Why Surya is the best to teach strategy is, every day I do Sandhya Vandanam. And the reason why we all do Sandhya Vandanam is the Arghya Pradhanam that we do in the Sandhya Vandanam. The purpose of that, all those Arghya Pradhanams is the water from that Arghya Pradhanam is used by Surya to fight the Asuras who have built up their strength during the night time. So that is why, Mahaparivar and others, they always say the importance of doing Sandhya Vandanam daily, because that Arghya Pradhanam is helping to fuel Surya's daily fight against the Asuras. So because he is fighting every day, he is the best to teach the strategy. And Hanuman understands this, so he shrinks his size from the large Hanuman to a small monkey, and he approaches the gates of Lanka. And Lanka is a very well fortified location. It is very hard to conquer. Dharma Devata is guarding the entrance of Lanka, and she asks Hanuman who he is. And Hanuman simply ignores him and tries to keep walking. So she tries to grab Hanuman, and Hanuman hits her lightly with his left hand, and she becomes unconscious. When she regains the conscious, what she tells Hanuman is, now you have relieved me of my curse by Brahma, because I am actually a celestial being. And because of that, Brahma also told me when a monkey hits me with his left hand and I fall unconscious, that will be the day that Lanka begins to decline. So this is a very good omen for Hanuman, and this boosts his confidence because he understands that up till now, in his interaction with Rama has been facing very tough times. Because Rama, at the same time all this is happening, Rama has a certain deadline because he has told all the Vanaras, you need to come back to me with good news by a certain day. And he's doing homam and all that. So Hanuman is under time pressure, And the Vanaras, they've been searching north, northeast, they've been searching in all the Ashtadik, the 8 directions, but they haven't been able to find any information about Sita. So now Hanuman thinks, okay, now things are going to improve. I think I have a good possibility of finding Sita here. But by the time all this happens, it's evening. So he simply, takes a tour of the city. In fact, night time is the time when spies are the most active. So he takes a tour of the cities, and because he's a monkey, he can jump here and there. So he takes stock of who all are the ministers, where they are located, because he understands that if the negotiation with Ravana does not go well, then now is the best time to collect intelligence to better inform the Rama and his generals, the Vanara generals, about how to best prepare for war. Because later on, they may not have the opportunity to collect intelligence because the city will be under lockdown with the war impending. So he does all this, and then when the morning comes, he finds Sita in the Ashokavana, and he presents her with the Chudamani, with the Rama's signet ring, and she gives him the Chudamani. And then some Asuras come and he engages in a fight with them, and this news goes to Ravana. And the reason why he gets so upset is Ashokavana is the best garden in Lanka. So he sends few Asuras to combat, but Hanuman is very strong, so he quickly dispatches them. Then he sends Indrajit, and Indrajit fires the Brahmastra at Hanuman. The reason why Hanuman is immune from the Brahmastra is he has a boon from Brahma, so he simply bows before the Brahmastra. The Asuras, not understanding that, tie him up, and only Indrajit and Hanuman know if you tie up somebody under the impact of the Brahmastra, the effect is gone. Anyway, they take him to the court of Ravana, and at the time he's dealing with, because his kingdom is very vast, he has a lot of allies that he has conquered. So he's dealing with a lot of domestic and foreign affairs, dealing with his ministers. So he's a bit annoyed when he sees a monkey because he thinks this is a minor issue, and why aren't the lower level administrative employees of the kingdom dealing with it, why they are bringing Hanuman to him. So he asks his chief minister Prahasta, quickly solve this issue, we have to get back to more important business. And Prahasta asks Hanuman in a condescending tone, who are you, what are you doing here? Be quick, tell me, I have other things to deal with. So Hanuman says, I am Hanuman, and I am here as a messenger of Rama. And Prahasta asks him, what is the message? And he says, I am a Vanara who is here on behalf of Sugriva. And it is best that Ravana returns Sita to Rama to avoid unnecessary bloodshed and conflict with the Lanka. And he also mentions the beauty of Lanka. But he implicitly tells Ravana, Lanka would be great, but unfortunately we have a very unrighteous ruler ruling Lanka. So Ravana gets quite mad. And he also mentions that the reason why Sugriva is the king of Kishkinda is Vali was killed by Rama. The moment Ravana hears the word Vali, he gets very scared. Because Vali has a boon from Indra that anybody who he is in direct combat with, he takes 50% of the strength. And Vali already is very strong. So for people who are inclined in math, and math professors, they will understand if you take 50% of somebody else's strength, they are left with 50% of their strength. And you took 50% of, so they have 50x, you have 50x, but then you also have your strength on top of that. So you are going to win every single battle. That's why Vali cannot be defeated in direct combat, even by Rama. That's why he had to shoot the arrows indirectly to defeat Vali. So Ravana gets a little bit perturbed. Then Rama goes on to mention that Sita is the embodiment of the goddess Kalaratri, who is responsible for destruction and dissolution. And he also mentions that Rama is the most powerful god because he can destroy the 3 worlds. He can destroy Swargaloka, Bhuloka, Padaloka. He can also destroy the 5 elements which are necessary for the sustenance of these worlds, the Panchabhutas, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, and Jala. So he can destroy all these 5 elements, and he can also recreate them. And anybody who tries to fight against Rama, even if they have the support of the other Trimurtis, Brahma or Shiva, they won't be able to defeat Rama. And this dialogue is very important because the strategy Hanuman is teaching is how to negotiate, how to deal with the counterparty who is in conflict with you. First, he mentions the strong point, something that is a weakness of the other party, Bali. He mentions that the person he is speaking on behalf of has destroyed the person that the other person is most afraid of, Bali. Then he mentions that Rama is very strong. Even if Shiva is on, because Hanuman knows that he knows that Ravana is a Shiva Bhakta, because Ravana is actually trained in Samaveda. He is one of the most skilled singers of the Samaveda. So he says, even if you have Shiva on your side, he doesn't explicitly say it, but he implicitly says it. Even if you have Shiva on your side, Rama will still defeat you. But Ravana has a lot of ego in him. He doesn't understand, he's not able to think clearly. So what he gets very mad and he tells, we need to kill this monkey because I am very angry. But the other ministers say, ethics, we can't kill a messenger. So Ravana compromises and will say, let's burn the monkey's tail because the monkey loves his tail. So the Asuras, they start tying the cloth to the tail, but Hanuman, he keeps lengthening the tail, and then finally they run out of cloth and they start burning the tail. Hanuman leaves the palace and sets fire to the entire Lanka. And this news reaches Sita through Trijata in Ashokavana, and she prays to Agni Devata to cool Hanuman's tail so he doesn't feel the effect of the fire. The moment she does this, Hanuman feels extreme cool and he understands Sita is the one who is praying. So that shows the power of Sita Devi. So I'm going to sing Kirtana for Sita. Sitam bhayamasi tam bhayamasi tam bhayamasi tam bhayam shiramudu makudadesi tam bhayam shiramudu makudadesi Tamma Mayamma Shiramudu Madhudadesi Tamma Mayamma Vadavaja Saumitri Vadavaja Saumitri Dharani ತ್ಯಾಗದ ಚುಣಿಗಿ ಪರಮ ಪಾದಗಳು ಮನಸಾಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಮಾಯಮ್ಮ ಶಿರ ಉಡುಮ ಭೂಗಂಧೇಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಮಾಯಮ್ಮ So now I will continue on to the Yuddha Kanda, and in the Yuddha Kanda they mainly cover the battle between Rama and Ravana. Towards there are skilled warriors on both sides. You have Kumbha, Nikumba, you have Indrajit, Kumbhakarna, and on Rama's side you have Sugriva, Nal, Neel, Mangala, Jambavan. So it's a very tough battle, and towards the end Rama is finding it difficult to finish off Ravana, because he has 10 heads and he's very strong, it's hard to defeat. So Maharishi Agastya comes, and Agastya, his residence, this is actually a very interesting point, his residence is near the Kaveri river. His residence is near the Kaveri river, so he is able to quickly come to Lanka, and he teaches Rama a very powerful shloka which is called the Aditya Hridaya, and this is something which allows, if chanted daily, it allows one to defeat all of the enemies, not just human enemies like disease, old age, family problems, all kinds of enemies. So Agastya teaches this to Rama, and Rama is a very quick learner. So he does Achamana, faces east and chants it, and at the end of the Aditya Hridaya comes the shloka, Adara Viravadan Niriksha Ramam Mudidamanaha Paramam Prayashyamanaha Vicharavadisham Shriyam Viditva Suraganamana Vachastvareti. What this means is Surya, because before that is the Palashruti, this is part of the Palashruti. What this means is Aditya is telling Rama from the sky that hurry up. Astrologically, Ravana's end is near. So Rama kills Ravana, and then Ravana's last rites are done by Vibhishana. And Rama gets on the Pushpak Vimana, and before he goes back to Ayodhya, he stops at Bharadwaja's ashram. And there are different perspectives on where Bharadwaja's ashram is. Some people say it's in a town called Mudiyundar in Tiruvarur district in Tamil Nadu. Other people's, and that temple is still there, the ashram and the temple is still there. And the Kumbhabhishekam recently happened. Other people, they say the ashram is in Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. Regardless of the exact location, the reason why Rama stopped at Bharadwaja's ashram is he understood the importance. He still wants to keep up his word. When he was going, Bharadwaja wanted him to have a meal, but he said, because I'm an exile, I can only eat the forest fruits and vegetables, I cannot eat a proper cooked meal. But he said, when I return back from the exile, I will have a meal at your ashram. So he does that, and in the meantime he sends Hanuman to Ayodhya to inform Bharata that all the arrangements need to be made and Rama is about to arrive. And by the time Hanuman comes back, everybody has already started eating, and Bharadwaja has not kept the banana leaf for Hanuman. So Hanuman gets very mad because he is Rama's closest friend, and he didn't like that Rama started eating without him. But what Rama does is he tells Hanuman to eat on the other side of it. So he keeps all the fruits, vegetables and foods like that on the other side of it. That's why even today, at Poonal or wedding, when serving, the rice and all is on the side closer to the human, whereas the fruits and pachdi and all that, that's on the side closer to the serving person, because that's where Hanuman has eaten. And Shatrughna, he has a lot of love for Rama. So he gets the best barbers in the kingdom to come and give Rama a good haircut. And Bharata, he brings the best clothes, and Rama takes a bath, changes, and gets on the royal chariot to enter Ayodhya. Sugriva, he mounts the chariot, he mounts the elephant by the name of Shatrunjaya, and he also is part of the procession. And when Rama enters Ayodhya, he is very pleased, he is shocked, because there are lights everywhere, people are dancing, they are wearing the new clothes, bhajana is happening everywhere, pravachan is being given in the various sabhas in Ayodhya. The Ayodhya that Rama left is very different from the Ayodhya that Rama is returning to. And in the meantime, Vasishtha gives Sugriva 4 golden jars, and he tells him to get the water from over 500 rivers and seas for the Pattabhishekam, the Abhishekam portion of the Pattabhishekam. So Sugriva sends various Vanaras like Rishabha, Degadarshi, Jambavan, Hanuman, Gavaya to get the water from over 500 rivers and get the sea water from the east, north, west and south, the seas from the 4 directions. And once they bring the water back, the Vasishtha and Saptarishis, Gautama, Kashyapa, Katyayana, Suyagnya, and other rishis, they do the Abhishekam for the water, Kalasha Abhishekam for Rama and Sita. And then after doing various homams, they have them sit on the throne, and Vasishtha coronates Rama as the king. There's an important fact about that particular crown. This crown has been handed through the Raghuvamsa dynasty, and it is a crown that was created by Brahma during the creation. So it's a very powerful crown. And then after the Pattabhishekam happens and the Ashirvadam happens, the way the Brahmana does all the Ashirvadam, Rama, he received gifts from all the nearby kings and devatas, and then he gives gifts to Sugriva, Vibhishana, Sita. One interesting, this is explicitly mentioned in the end of the Kanda, in the Pattabhishekam scene. Rama gives 30 crores, and this is exactly quantified, 30 crore gold coins to Brahmanas. And as you know, gold is the best hedge against inflation, which is a big issue right now. Inflation is still, I think, depending on which country you look at, it's anywhere from 4 to 6%. So gold doesn't lose value over time. That means gold back then is roughly equivalent in value to gold now. And the gold coins back then, they weighed about 1 ounce, similar to now. And the price of gold right now is $2,500 per ounce. So if you take 30 crore gold coins, multiply it by $2,500, you get 750 billion with the B, billion US dollars. And this is what Rama gave, only gold coins he gave to Brahmanas. He also gave land, cows, he gave various precious jewels, he gave all kinds of clothes. That shows how rich Bharata Khanda was and how prosperous the Rama Rajya was. This is before Rama starts ruling. So when Rama starts ruling, he will be even more prosperous. This is only with Bharata's hard work. Once Rama rules, he rules for 10,000 years and he takes the kingdom to new heights. Everyone is happy, healthy and wealthy. And there's no disease, no conflict within the kingdom. And listening to this Pattabhishekam story and the rest of the stories in the Ramayana is very auspicious, because those who listen to it, they attain happiness, wealth, and live a very good life. So I want to thank everyone for attending this pravachanam and for taking the time to listen to the strategies from Ramayana. And I'm going to sing one more kirtana. about the Rama Samrajya, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, to pray for everyone's happy, healthy and wealthy life. Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Emana Pulaga Vedo Manasa, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Emana Pulaga Vedo Manasa, Rama Bhakti. Amanavula Sardarshana, Amanavula Sardarshana, Amanavula Sardarshana, Amanavula Sardarshana, Atyanta Brahmananda Manasa, Atyanta Brahmananda Manasa, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Emana Bulaga Vedo Manasa, Rama Bhakti. Ilagani vibhaju balenu, Ilagani vibhaju balenu, Chala swanubhava vedyame, Lila shrishti, Lila shrishti jagatrayamana, Lila shrishti jagatrayamana, Lila shrishti jagatrayamana, Kola Tyagaraja Vinuta, Kola Tyagaraja Vinuta, Rama Bhakti Samrajya, Emana Bulaga Vedo Manasa, Rama Bhakti. Let me end with the sloka to Hanuman. Buddhir Balam Vishwadairyam, Vidvidatamro Gada, Adacham Vakpatunja, Anumasmananat Bhaved, Hari Om Tatsat, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. I would like to open up the floor for interactive question and answer.